Welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we are doing on Friday morning at 1:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Joining me from New York City, where he went to the Nets-Sixers game a few hours ago. Nothing happened that game, Mr. Tim Bontemps.
I really jinxed myself by saying many times over the past couple of weeks that this series was going to be and was incredibly boring. I got all that back for me and then some tonight, because I had to deal with a whole bunch of nonsense.
Joining us on an off night, he's covering the Grizzlies Lakers series, but an off night for him is MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Took a little pit stop at home, had some laundry to do and some people to smooch up a little bit.
All right, listen, you do what you got to do.
There was not a lot of smooching going on in Brooklyn tonight, that's for sure. Everybody is very unhappy.
Well, all right, we had an interesting 3 games on Thursday night. Obviously, the one that was probably most important, Kings Warriors, was the least interesting, as it turned out. But I feel like we should probably. Well, we'll start with your game, Bontemps.
No, let's start. That's the headliner game. Let's get it out of the way. Warriors Kings.
All right. So,
Steph saves the day.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and Kevon Looney.
Well, and Kevon Looney, who was terrific. I mean, look, coming into this game with no Draymond Green, I felt like the Warriors were going to win because I thought Steph Curry, an all-time great player, was going to step up and deliver a win at home. And he stepped up and played great. And Kevon Looney, who has been the unsung hero of this Warriors run for years. You talk to people with the Warriors. Kevon Looney's first 2 years in his career, he had one hip labrum injury, and then he had the other one. He basically didn't play for, I think, his entire first 2 years of his career. And he now has become one of the more durable players in the league. He played, I think, every game last year. He played just about every game this year. And
they drafted his replacement.
Yes. Right. James Wiseman was supposed to be his replacement, and now is gone.
Yeah.
And people
then traded him for 3 deflated basketballs.
Yeah. I mean, people around that team, like you ask them who their favorite guy on the team is, they basically all say Kevon Looney because of his character and work ethic and the amount of stuff he's fought through. And for him to step up the way he did today says a lot about him and a lot about his role on that team to step up and deliver the way he did.
20 rebounds, 9 assists, plus 21 in 30 minutes, and was exhausting himself, like working so hard on Sabonis that he was exhausting himself. 9 offensive rebounds, which Jackson is telling us is the most offensive rebounds in a playoff game since Kevon Looney.
I think you guys remember the one last year. I think that was against the Mavericks because he was awesome. Like basically the Mavericks went out and said, "Hey, we've got to sign a rim protecting, rebounding big man because Kevon Looney kicked their butt so bad." And they've still got to sign that guy because JaVale McGee wasn't the answer, but neither here nor there.
Well, he did the same thing in the NBA Finals too. He threw the Celtics around for 6 games and was a huge part of why Golden State won that series. They couldn't keep him off the glass then either.
Yeah, and look, the Warriors, the trend continues. Awesome at home, not very good on the road. It will surprise nobody if this thing's 2-2 going back to Sacramento.
Well, okay, before we get to that, once again, the Warriors played good defense. Now, good defense at home.
Right.
This is what they do. Number 3 defense at home, number 28 on the road. The Kings were ice cold from 3-point range tonight, 11 of 47. But the Warriors, other than Steph, weren't hot either. The Warriors, 16 of 50. There was 97 threes taken in this game. Holy Moses. Steph.
Moses Maloney. Isn't that what they call him?
Yeah. Who?
Moses Maloney. That's what they call him,
last year in the playoffs. Yes. Yeah. This is right over Brian's head.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Moses Malone, the greatest offensive rebounder in the history of the NBA. It's a play on Kevon Looney's name. It's not that hard.
I know Moses Malone. It's probably one of the most untouchable records in sports, his offensive rebound record. But I'd never heard it, Moses Maloney. I'd never heard that.
Bontemps, I am pretty sure Wendy told us about that last year.
We talked about this multiple times during the playoffs last year.
All right.
Fine. On this pod.
We're moving on. I'll accept guilt. Fine, I'm guilty. It's not worth it. The Kings, shot 38%, 23% on threes, only 97 points. I mean, I mean that's just without Draymond Green, who's their best defensive player. I think there's a bunch of different ways you can look at this stat, but the stat that I had from our SIG group was that when Draymond played, the Warriors ranked third in defensive field goal percentage allowed, and when he didn't play, when he wasn't on the floor, they were 25th. And then Gary Payton, who is obviously one of their key situational defensive players, a guy who they would put on De'Aaron Fox. He was on De'Aaron Fox down the stretch of the game.
Might have started today if he was available.
That's true. He was out. He's been dealing with an ankle injury, but he's also out sick, which I have to assume he was very, very sick to miss this game. So I don't know where that leaves him for game 4, but that was not a good development for the Warriors defensively to have two of their best defensive players not available, and then they still hold them to 97. I mean, that's pretty much the story of the game.
And Malik Monk had a total dud. He was awesome in game 1, 32 points. Pretty good, and not an efficient 18 points in game 2, but still scored 18. And tonight, 4 points, 1 of 9 shooting. He's got to be really good for the Kings to win. And tonight he wasn't. You know who was really good though? And this is big for this series and potentially moving forward. Andrew Wiggins looked like the guy who was a star during the championship run last year. His minutes are back in the mid-30s, 20 points efficiently, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Obviously, the guy is going to be an impact on the defensive end. That to me is one of the bigger developments, is that Wiggins he doesn't look like a guy who missed 2 months. He looks like the guy who was one of the key parts of a title run last year.
Yeah, he's looked really good, really since game 1 of the series for me. I mean, came right in, played 28 minutes off the bench game 1, started game 2, looked pretty good, I thought, in game 2, looked good again today. Like, that's, to your point, MacMahon, that's a huge thing for them going forward. And look, for Sacramento, like, obviously, I think as a neutral, I am happy that the Warriors won this game because the story of the series is not going to be about Draymond Green being suspended. But for Sacramento, this is a huge missed opportunity. Just like Wednesday was a huge missed opportunity for the Lakers with Ja Morant out, right? That was a chance for the Lakers to really put a hammerlock on that series. They failed to do it. Tonight, the Kings had a chance to put this thing away, and they let the defending champs get off the mat. And we'll see if it comes back to bite them or not. But you don't necessarily get a lot of opportunities to take a team like this out like this. And, they didn't take advantage of it.
Normally in a situation like this, I would say that whoever wins game 4 probably wins the series. I've seen series like this a lot of times, and I can't quite say that because the Warriors are so Jekyll and Hyde home road. I feel like if given 2 more chances in 5 and 7, that they could get 1, but they have not. They have not earned that confidence.
I thought if Golden State won this game, they're going to win the next 3. So we'll see if they do.
That's bold.
I thought this was the Kings' opportunity. They played well in the 2 games at home. They win this game tonight. The series is over. They let these guys get off the mat. Because here's the thing. I didn't think Golden State played that bad in those 2 games at Sacramento. Like, game 1 was a tie, basically a tie game. Andrew Wiggins gets a wide open 3 to win it, misses it, but great shot.
To tie it.
I thought it was to would have put him ahead.
It would have put him ahead. Steph had the shot at the buzzer.
Steph had the shot to tie it after that. And then I thought the Warriors were coming back in game 2 when Draymond got thrown out. Like, they had all the momentum. Steph was slicing through their defense. Like, so it wasn't like they were playing terrible to me in Sacramento.
I'll say this: fourth quarter Fox was pretty strong in game 2.
I think it's fair to say
at that point, but that was once Draymond left the game, the Warriors offense short circuited, and
I think it's fair to say that regardless of what's happened, it's not far away from being 2-1 Warriors. I think that's a fair statement.
Right. I just think the win in Sacramento to me felt like it was coming, and if they got off the mat today, I thought they're going to come back and win the series. But that's no knock on the Kings. They've more than acquitted themselves, and it's going to be a hell of a series. It's far, we'll see what happens.
I mean, there's a reason why the saying is old, that a series doesn't start until somebody wins on the other team's floor. Obviously, it's not always true. Obviously, if a team with home court doesn't win, but it's indicative of how a series is played. That saying exists for a reason, and that saying is applicable probably to where we're at in this series right now. So we'll see also the demeanor that Draymond has when he comes back, what he's what he's able to give, whether or not that that ends up being a rally.
He'll be fresh.
Point.
I suspect Draymond is going to have a monster game in Game 4.
Yeah, for sure. And I suspect that the Kings, that was the one thing I thought about coming into this game, was that with what happened, it kind of put the Kings in a situation where it's kind of, the stakes are much higher than just a normal Game 3. Because now that they lose, as you said, now Golden State has won a game that in theory they shouldn't have won. So, but clearly they were the better team.
Well, you know what happened? You know what I really thought the key to this game was? When the Chase Center announced that cowbells would not be allowed. That was that.
Well,
that was very absurd.
I think it was an edict from Bob Myers, their general manager, who had a fan the other night. Did you see that video that went?
No, I didn't see this.
Did you see it, man?
I did not.
So
did he have a little cowbell ringing on his?
He had a fan in his face.
Not in his face, like 1 foot behind his head.
Oh,
he was sitting. Typically, league executives, they sit in sort of the middle of the stands, like 7, 8, 10 rows up. And there was. I assume that the Kings fan knew who Bob Myers was, but he was ringing that bell like crazy, like inches behind his head, inches. And at least in this clip that was out there, Bob did not even turn around. And it was just
the man has had Draymond Green on his roster for how many years? Like, he's probably pretty good at tuning out some noise.
Right. It was, the guy was going with both hands. He was ringing that thing with both hands.
Jackson just sent me this clip. I'm pulling it up right now. Oh yeah. Got Mike Dunleavy and Bob Myers sitting there, not even flinching. This guy's bonkers.
This is impressive.
And Kirk Lake up there too. Got the whole crew of guys there.
Dunleavy is composing, or is that Kirk? Is that Kirk or
Dunleavy's sitting in it? Dunleavy's sitting down, typing out a text. Kirk is.
I know what the text says.
And Bob isn't moving.
The text is to Chase Center operations. Please issue a statement banning cowbell for Game 3. Sincerely, Golden State Warriors front office.
God bless those guys for not moving though. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember when the Heat would when Riley does. I'm sure they still do. The Heat, Riley, during every timeout, Riley would stand up. He'd be sitting behind the bench, and Riley, he couldn't hear or see into the huddle, but he would stand up. Riley, Andy Ellisberg, and Alonzo Mourning. And it kind of annoyed fans sometimes that he'd stand up, but Alonzo Mourning kind of ends that discussion here.
Well, Alonzo Mourning and Pat Riley, both.
Well, right, but
Pat Riley
I'm
either.
just saying that, you
ain't gonna say much to Zoe.
If Alonzo Mourning was doing that standing there, I suspect the cowbell might not have been ringing. So, no offense to Mike Dunleavy. He's he's an impressive man, but he's not allowed.
Him and Bob Myers are both solid 6'7", 6'8", but they ain't Alonzo Mourning.
That's true. And Alonzo has sort of a resting, don't mess with me face. I think, but anyway, so we will see what happens in Game 4. That now becomes super pivotal. Unfortunate that this game wasn't as intense as games 1 and 2. It was the least intense game of the night. But okay, so Bontemps, your game. The Nets.
Was it a game? Is it fair to call it a game? It was more just like a nonstop wrestling match for 3 hours.
Well, look, let me tell you something. when the league suspends Draymond under the circumstances what they suspended him for, they are asking for trouble.
They sure are. And they got
with the
it.
way other
Listen,
players
man,
are going to react.
I hear what you're saying. Also, they made it very clear Draymond's history was the reason he got suspended.
Well, but
let's leave the little violins at home and recognize that Draymond put himself in this situation.
No. That's not what Brian's saying. What Brian's saying is because of how the league has legislated these flagrant fouls, you now have a situation where on virtually any time there is a foul, there are attempts by the player who was fouled to try to get a review to turn it into a flagrant foul.
I hear that. I'm just saying, let's not be too sympathetic towards Draymond, where there's been a lot of that.
I'm just saying,
overboard.
Like, okay, so was it 3 minutes into the game? Nick Claxton, Embiid drives with the ball, falls on the ground. Nick Claxton steps over him.
Fouled by Claxton.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the play.
Claxton steps over him.
Mm-hmm. Tried to bait him.
Yep. Because they know that the way to get a guy neutralized is to get him kicked out or suspended.
There's one thing that should be reminded here. Back in January, in the Ben Simmons game, the one time Ben Simmons has actually played in Philadelphia as a net, the real tussle that obviously Embiid and Simmons guard each other at the beginning of the game. People remember that. The thing people don't remember is during that game, Embiid and Claxton got double technicals because Claxton and Embiid got after it. Embiid said after the game, Claxton said some stuff he wouldn't repeat later and whatever. It became a thing.
Right.
So those two guys already have a history, and that's before it's 2-0 Philly, and Embiid has dominated the interior the past two games. So all that is prior context to Claxton committing this foul and then staring down Embiid and stepping over, leading up to what happened after that.
And then Embiid kicks up at his groin. He didn't hit his groin. I don't know if that was.
I think he might have hit the groin. He did not hit the cojones.
He hit him in the back of the leg.
Those are not your groin. You're using as a euphemism, but they're neighbors, but they're separate body parts.
Thank you for that clarification.
He hit Claxton in the back of the leg and didn't even hit him really that hard, which is why I thought before they announced the review, it was going to be a friend of ours who's a scout texted me, who was at the game, said, "What do you think this is going to be?" I said, "They think they're going to call Claxton for a tech for taunting. And I think they're going to call Embiid for a flagrant one because he didn't really connect that hard, even though it was obvious he had intent behind what he was doing."
Okay, right. But here's the thing. Because of what's happened with guys who've been hitting the groin, there's been multiple suspensions over the years for that.
Sure.
And because Claxton went down like there was a mortal wound.
Right.
And, I don't want to call anybody out because I don't know how certain things felt, but it wouldn't be the first time this week a guy, took a shot and acted as if it was,
Well, here's the thing about it. MacMahon, I know Brian, you thought it was a flagrant 2, right?
I was surprised. I was surprised they because it was so blatantly that he kicked him.
But either way, it was a borderline call. You thought it was flagrant 2, not stunned. It's a flagrant 1. MacMahon, did you think it was a flagrant 1 or flagrant 2?
I thought there were definitely flagrant 2 intentions and flagrant 1 execution.
That's basically where I came down. I thought he should have stayed in the game because he didn't connect really. He sort of grazed him, whatever.
But so here's the thing. You tried to kick him in the nuts, but because you have bad aim, like just because he's not as good a kicker as Draymond Green.
I would have been fine if I think it was a borderline call. You could have gone either way. We seem to all agree on that, right?
Okay.
Sure.
This James Harden ejection later in the game.
All right. Hold on.
We'll get to that. Hold on. Right. Well, I'm just this.
It's Wendy's. I don't know when Wendy's on the cartoon, bro. When he says, "Hold on," you got to stand down.
I had to watch this game, and I had to deal with this all day. This James Harden ejection. Every single person on press row was flabbergasted when they said,
I'm going to tell you why.
flagrant 2.
I'm going to tell you why. Because after the events of the last few days, the fact that they gave Embiid a flagrant 1, even though it wasn't Tony Brothers, who was the crew chief in this game's decision to suspend Draymond, he is the figurehead for the NBA authority. because of what had just happened, the overwhelming response, especially I'm sure within the building there in Philadelphia, in Brooklyn, was that was a miscarriage. Okay. And so that was just hanging in the air. All right. At halftime, not that I'm saying the referees are watching.
He kicked at something that was hanging.
Yeah, you could have made a carriage joke there too.
I opted out of that one.
Good job. You got Charles Barkley and Shaq saying he should have been kicked out. Again, not that the crew chiefs was watching that, but I mean, they're sort of setting the agenda.
I did not expect the 1990s inside crew to start saying that there should be ejections from games too. I went to watch to see what they'd have to say, and I was like, this is not what I expected.
It was 24 hours after one of the bad boys suspended Draymond.
Yeah, right.
Strange week in the league.
Okay, so go ahead, Bontemps. Then we have
So then at the end of the third quarter, James Harden has Royce O'Neal on him and sort of just shoves him. I didn't really listen. At first, I couldn't honestly tell where the foul was. Like, I saw the play. Royce O'Neal goes down. They call this offensive foul. James Harden looks surprised. I was like, all right, I didn't see a lot of contact there. Then I'm watching the review. I honestly couldn't really tell what happened at first. I mean, it looked like he hit him in the stomach, but like
He hit Royce O'Neal right in the double zeros.
I thought he hit him higher than that personally. I didn't think he hit him that low. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I watched the replay a bunch of times and I was like, this looks like a common foul. And then they come back and announce it's a flagrant 2.
On that one, I can't be certain that obviously O'Neal wanted everybody to think that he got hit in the cojones. I'm not sure if he did or not, but on that one, I thought that it was common foul to potentially flagrant 1 intentions. I think Harden might have been meaning to hit him like in the stomach.
Well, Harden was hanging on him. He was hanging on him and he pushed
Harden
him off.
He was definitely,
for sure.
but he did it with like a fist. I mean, I think he was definitely meaning to give him a shot. And that might have been flagrant 1 intentions and flagrant 2 execution. Or maybe
you should write a dissertation on this. Man.
I'm stunned. Perhaps, you think this is a flagrant 2? I don't know anybody, and nobody at the game.
So here's what I think. Okay, so over the last couple of years, where we review everything where the guy lays on the ground, many times you see a foul and you're like, okay, that's a foul, and then they review it and they come back and say flagrant 1. That happens like how many times? And we've just become accustomed to, all right, well, he's going to get a flagrant 1 because he laid on the ground. And that's what I thought was going to happen there. I thought he was going to, lay on the ground his way to a flagrant 1. And it wasn't going to be the worst, even though the game was very competitive, it wasn't going to be the worst call ever. Right. So for them to take those 2 plays and, appear to go soft on the first one and then overboard on the second one, affecting the same team, it just didn't look good. So after the game, Bontemps, Tony Brothers, the crew chief, gives a pool report. What does he say?
Well, he didn't even have to give the pool report because they have Bonnie McCutcheon, his boss, on immediately after the play. And he said, well, James Harden hit him in the groin intentionally, and that's why he got ejected from the game, which is later what Tony Brothers said. I still don't think he actually hit him in the groin. I still am stunned that he got a flagrant 2. And by the way, like, the Sixers are trying to have a long playoff run. If you get 4 flagrant foul points, you get suspended for a game. James Harden now has 2. Like, that's not an insignificant thing. And like, I just thought this was an insane call. Like, if you told me that Embiid got ejected, I would have understood it. That was a borderline call. I could have seen a flagrant 2. I thought it was a flagrant 1, especially because it's a playoff game and he got sort of goaded into it. Whatever. Either way, it would have been fine. I think this Harden thing is crazy. And to me, it's just
guess who else thought it was crazy? Harden thought it was crazy.
Well, Harden but I have sympathy for Harden on this one. I cannot believe he got ejected for this play. I think it's wild. It's a wild decision. Like, to me, it should get rescinded. It should get taken down to a flagrant 1 on Friday by the league, which I'm sure it's not going to after this. But I don't know how they can, with a straight face, say that this is a flagrant 2 play.
All right. Well, then let me say this. So then midway through the fourth, Claxton gets ejected for a second technical.
Well, this was the dumbest thing of all time. Nick Claxton, I'm sorry. Like, he has this dunk on Embiid, and then he runs over to Embiid and stares him down and clearly taunts him, which is the easiest technical. Tony Brothers sprinted across the gym and was just, see ya. Just immediately flinging him out of the
right
game.
On his heels of saying see ya. Embiid was saying see ya too.
Oh, I mean, Nick Claxton was having a good game, and like they're up in the game, I think 6 or 8 points at that point. Like, just a colossally stupid play by him. Just, you cannot be doing that.
I mean, it's stupid anyway, but especially when you know that you've got no interior way to slow down Embiid, and you're the best option.
Right.
And so like they're running Day'Ron Sharp out there, who's really a borderline even center on a good day, much less dealing with a 7'2" behemoth.
Right.
So, but I will say this: the crazy thing is, as if that's not all enough, because it was a back and forth game, is that Harden is out. And so that means the ball's in Tyrese Maxey's hands coming down the stretch. Embiid's having a dog game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he was just due. I don't know. He kind of fell on his knee.
His knee was bothering him. His back was bothering him. His foot was bothering him. He had about 20 pounds of ice on his knee after the game. I mean, he was all banged up.
Yeah, his foot was bothering him. He thought he was going to hit something softer when he kicked Claxton.
Well, look, I mean, Tyrese Maxey had 15 in the first half, doesn't score the first 21 minutes of the second half, and then had 10 straight points the final 3 minutes. Hit a huge step back three to put the Sixers ahead late. And then Spencer Dinwiddie had a chance to tie the game. Joel gets a big block, and the Sixers find a way to escape with a win that, they did not deserve to get. They played really bad. They had Harden, who was their one good, consistent offensive player, get ejected. Harden finally made some twos in the game. But, now they come back in 36 hours. They play a game Saturday afternoon again in Brooklyn in Game 4, and we'll see if they can close the series out, or if it starts to go like the series last year with Toronto, where they went up 3-2 and then they were down, it got to within 3-2, and that led to Embiid getting hit in the face late in Game 6 and breaking his orbital bone or whatever he did.
Yeah.
This is a great pool report. I'm just now reading it. The explanation for Harden, based on the point of contact directly to the groin, it rose to the level of excessive in ejection. And when I first read that, I misread ejection, which was pretty funny. I'm not going to say what.
I'm not surprised.
It was a wild day. It was a wild day in Brooklyn for a series that was very boring until today. All of a sudden now it's not at all boring, and Saturday is going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of emotions. 36 hours after this one's over, they're back playing again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. And then the NBA TV game, which is a series I'm covering. I'm putting my fingers up. I'm covering.
Do you get NBA TV in Omaha?
I do. As long as the Nuggets and Wolves and Thunder are not playing on it. It's a whole new world seeing this Thunder's Wolves series. I was watching that game last night. Like
the Nuggets too.
Yeah. What did I say? Thunder and Wolves.
Thunder Wolves. They're playing. I hear you.
Yeah, you're right. It's like a whole new world seeing these games. It's like, whoa, who's that guy?
Oh, that's the guy. That's the guy I've been hating on for the last few years.
Anyway,
First he didn't vote for Embiid, MacMahon, for MVP, and now he's throwing him out of playoff games. Probably going to call for him to get suspended soon. He's just totally off the Embiid train, Windhorst.
Well, we better review tomorrow. We'll bring in Joel Embiid's permanent record so we can evaluate whether or not there should be any further discipline.
Book Dumars for NBA Today. Hey, I told you guys this. Dumars took more of a victory lap for suspending Draymond Green than he did in either of the Pistons' 2 titles. He got more face time for this than Finals MVP.
Well, he was bumped out of the headlines by Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks knocked him out. And by the way, MacMahon, I did TV this morning from 8 a.m. until noon, and MacMahon's video, your video of Dylan Brooks.
Some beautiful footage.
What's funny? What's funny is he was the only player who I shot video of. And there was
Good
a reason
decision
for that. There was a reason for that because it's like, oh, Dylan didn't do a whole lot, but you never know. And voila, there we go.
Magic.
Yep. I told Stephen A. Stephen A. was totally doing what Dylan wanted him to do, which was to challenge LeBron to score, to go for 40 and ignore, now, I'm not saying that he'd have to ignore AD, but that's what the Grizzlies want. They want the Lakers to focus on anybody but AD, even if it's LeBron. And Stephen A. is just riling, going crazy, totally doing it. And I was like, Stephen A., when Dylan picked out those white glasses and that plaid jacket with no undershirt and that diamond encrusted chain, he wore that for you. He wore that for you, Stephen A. And
I will say it's not an unusual outfit for Dylan.
I've seen Dylan wear similar fits before,
but
no question.
Your greater point is he went in there with a plan, and he executed that plan quite well. And it's funny because he didn't make much of an impact in the game. He only played 23 minutes, had more shot attempts than points, and was in foul trouble.
It was a very Dylan Brooks game all the way around.
And somehow the game became all about him an hour after it ended.
I said he should speak at Harvard Business School with the way that he commandeered that. And after like round 3 of everybody, demanding that LeBron go get him, I was like, he's having champagne for breakfast because he's the big winner.
By the way, I do love this. This proves Jordan's better than LeBron. Nobody would ever say anything like that about Jordan. Like, back to the Bad Boys Pistons, fellas. Second time we've mentioned them. But do you think they were just like, kissing Jordan's butt his whole career?
There's a lot of revisionist history.
Yeah, I don't think the
Ja in Game 3, MacMahon.
What's that?
Are we going to see Ja in Game 3?
Listen, man. I know that he basically told us after Game 1 he didn't think he was playing in Game 2. And I know Woj was reporting like there wasn't optimism. I was surprised. It's a bruise. And they didn't even list contusion on the injury report. They listed right hand soreness. Hopefully that little mitten with the fingers cut off that he put on for the game after not wearing it into the arena is going to help. I don't know the science behind it, but hopefully that'll help and we can see him Game 3.
Well, even if he plays Game 3, you have to figure he's going to be in some discomfort. He's going to be limited. So I don't know. I've seen guys where I thought they would miss time and come in and score 40. So I don't know, but I know that the Lakers could have levied a knockout blow and didn't. We'll get to that in a minute. So the series I'm covering, I was at 1-2. I didn't go to LA, came home for the weekend. Still got up at 4:45 today to do television.
Okay, we don't need your whole resume. Go on.
All right. This was a game I was paying attention to. Thank you to Ramona Shelburne.
Got so many violins here. So many violins.
Yeah.
For all.
By the way, I'd like to thank MacMahon for pulling double duty on Saturday to cover.
Brian's working so hard. He's working from home. He's not going to the games.
Hey, listen, when you reach a certain status, you get time off during the playoffs. Draymond Green, Brian Windhorst.
That's right.
Draymond, another media guy, just taking games off during the playoffs. Doesn't need to be
podcast.
Yeah, when's the next podcast?
It's probably already up. It's probably already up.
Yeah, you're probably right.
On the rollicking victory by his teammates.
Anyway, listen to him though.
Genuine stunning development today that Kawhi Leonard was ruled out with a sprained knee. I was at the first 2 games. I did not see him get hurt. Did not see a bobble, a limp at all. He had 38 in Game 1, where I came on this pod afterwards.
Yeah.
Sunday night. You remember me saying, "My God, does he look great?" In Game 2, he maybe wasn't quite as effective, but he still had 31. And part of the reason he wasn't as effective was because the Suns were aggressively double teaming him. They made that adjustment.
He still looked pretty damn good to me.
Yeah, there was no way you'd look at them and say, "Oh man, like he's showing any signs of anything."
Right.
And so this was jaw dropping. Not only that, he wasn't on the injury report.
He played 39 minutes in game 2. It was bizarre.
Let me tell you something. He barely came out of the game in the first half. Like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, nothing in their actions indicated that they were worried about this injury. They played him at center down the stretch of the game. Not that playing
they played
versus 5.
Who'd they play at center tonight? Like Bones Highland, I think.
Terrence Mann in the end. We'll talk about that in a second. Not on the injury report.
Well, this was the quote from Lawrence Frank, the president of basketball operations, you talked about it before the game. Because they said he aggravated it at the end of game 1. Symptoms got worse after game 2. Obviously, if we weren't comfortable with him playing in game 2, we wouldn't have. But after the game, things didn't get better. They got worse. So we will rule him out and kind of take it day by day. It's a very odd thing, as you said, to say something got worse that was never listed on the injury report.
And they played him 39 minutes.
We need to get Joe Dumars on NBA Today for some explanation of this one.
Well, put it this way, it required enough explanation that Lawrence Frank called a pregame press conference.
Well, I think that old Stevie B is going to be coming up with a little change for this one.
I mean, under the rules that it normally happens, yeah.
A knee sprain supposedly suffered in game 1. He's not on the injury report until he's ruled out the day of game 3, like hours before game 3.
It was at 4:00 Eastern. It was 3:45 Eastern. I was within 5 hours.
It was after shoot around. They had shoot around and then they ruled him out.
Oh, I guess that's
I'm just saying it was like 12:30 Pacific time. They had shoot around and then they said he wasn't going to play.
But it
whatever. Okay. It was hours before. It was hours.
Yeah,
before.
No, I mean, you know.
Okay.
I don't think that will result in a fine, if only because that tends to be the other way. If a guy goes from being out to playing, it usually is when it is, but who knows.
All right. Well, so in this game, the Clippers threw, I'd say Ty Lue. I mean, he just is a mad scientist. He threw everything he can at the Suns, and they did an impressive job taking this game down to the last minute. Put Norm Powell into the starting lineup in place of Kawhi, and all Norm did was score 42. Probably contributed at a higher level than even could have been expected from Kawhi had Kawhi started. I'm probably not defensively, but certainly Norm Powell coming off the bench and getting 42 was not an expected outcome. Yeah.
I got a trivia question.
More Hoop Collective podcast after this.
Guys, it's all about confidence. Confidence knowing you'll be able to be ready to go when your partner is, and confidence knowing you'll be able to go a few extra rounds when needed. Confidence is what you get with the chewables from BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. And now they also have Vartafil, mint-flavored chewables with active ingredients in Levitra and Staxin. Blue Chew tablets are performance enhancement for the bedroom and can help men gain extra confidence when it's time to perform. Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part? It's all done online. Blue Chew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. Don't like swallowing pills? No problems. Blue Chew's Sildenafil and Tadalafil tablets are chewable. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and they prepare to ship direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, visit BlueChew.com. And here's a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code HOOP at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code HOOP to receive your first month free.
There you go. What do you got?
As I'm scanning the SIG Slack channel, he is the 5th player in Clippers history with a 40-point playoff game. Can you name the other 4?
Kawhi.
Yes.
Blake.
Nope.
Did Lou
CP?
Williams have a 40-point playoff game?
No, sir.
CP.
No, sir.
Elton Brand.
Yes, that was. I didn't think you'd get that one.
Wow, that's a good one.
So
So we have 2 more.
2 more.
Eric Piatkowski.
No, stop doing
what
Cornhusker
what era are we talking?
Present and well into the past.
No.
Present's
Bill Walton.
No. Can you get the present? Come on, dude.
Paul George.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the other one, there's the last one, there's an asterisk on it.
Was it like the San Diego Clippers, the Buffalo Braves, or
That's
something?
why I said, is it Bob McAdoo?
Yes, it is. All right, good job.
There you go.
All right. Good. Hey, nice job. Well, good trivia question.
That was a good trivia question.
Congratulations.
And by the way, you know what? We've been critical, or at least I've been critical. I think we've probably all been critical of Russell Westbrook on this pod.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Like, in all seriousness, this game showed the way Russell Westbrook can still be an effective NBA player.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a guy that's necessarily, to me, very effective if you're trying to win a championship and he's playing on that kind of a team. And I'm not saying this to be denigrating, but like, this Clipper team as constructed today is like a 8 seed-ish team, right? That's like essentially be trying to be a 500 team. If you have Russell Westbrook on a team like that, where he's going to have the ball in his hands all the time, he could still be a very effective player. You saw that in this game. He had 30, 12, and I think 6. 30, 12, and 8.
Yeah. And he had
30,
3
12,
steals.
and 8, and 3 steals. It was all over the place. He was playing really hard. Like, he was a really effective player for them today because he had the ball in his hands all the time, surrounded by shooting. You have him in a situation like that, he could still be a very effective player.
Well, one of the things that's, first off, I don't understand why, but he actually did shoot the ball better when he came to the Clippers. I don't know why it would be a difference, but he shot the ball respectably as a Clipper versus as a Laker, where he was shooting from 3-point range in the 20s and routinely throwing up air balls. He did throw up an air ball in the 3 tonight, but for some reason in those 21 games, he shot like 36% from 3. Okay. And then the other thing is, when you watch him play in this series, he has high turnovers, he has missed shots, but his playing with force that he plays with has been extremely effective. He is, for the most part, been able to impose his will without getting out of control. Even in the game where he was 3 of 19, he took some bad shots, but he took
100 bad shots in that game, but he also made hustle plays.
Right.
Could have been more than 16.
When he
Fair.
would push the ball, when he would push the ball in transition, he really found ways to impact the game that way. And in the last couple of games, he's been pushing the ball in transition and going for the basket and getting it done. And he has 30 points tonight. And you totally forget that what the player he was with the Lakers. Like, you're watching the game and you're evaluating him as one of the best players on the court, because that has been the case for the last 2 games. So anyway, what I want to say is that Devin Booker after the All-Star break was a top 5 player in the league. Okay.
Devin Booker when healthy.
Right.
I mean, honestly, because he was before he got hurt too.
Right. But especially after he took that break and came back. The last couple of games, he has been the alpha for the Suns. KD has been fine in this series. He had a stretch in game 1 where he didn't score. He was not effective at the end of the 4th quarter of game 1, but it wasn't like he played poorly, and he's played fine the last couple of games. He's made decent amount of plays, scored in isolation. Tonight got to the line. This is a big issue for the Suns is getting to the line. It's something that is one of their weak spots because they're all mid-range. Durant got to the line 11 times. They got Phoenix in, or they got the Clippers into the penalty a lot, and they really worked on that. But Devin Booker has been the alpha.
Yeah.
So he goes for 45 in this game, absolutely killing from mid-range and inside. And he also has been really strong defensively. Like, this was a guy who was regarded as a weak defender not too long ago. He's as good as anybody on their team defensively. And Monty Williams knows it. He'll give him, like today when Westbrook was really causing problems, they put Booker on him. I mean, talk about something you didn't think you'd see. Westbrook being a problem with scoring the ball, and Monty deciding that his best option was to go to Devin Booker. And so, like, I'm just going to say, I don't know what's going to happen in this series. I mean, I would say that the Suns getting back home court with Kawhi hurt, they'd have pretty good leverage at this point. But Devin Booker is really, really looking like this might be a special run for him. And he certainly was in this game. I am expecting Durant to have a couple of transcendent performances. I'm sure it won't be too long where he's sniffing 40. But the fact that Durant can play three sort of B+, B- to B+ performances, and the Suns to still be in this kind of position is an indication of just how strong Devin Booker has become.
Yeah, and if we're grading on the KD curve, these were C performances, right?
Fair.
I mean, these on his curve, he didn't really look comfortable a lot of the time. There was a lot of times where he was just standing in the corner, not involved, and then there were a lot of possessions where he didn't look comfortable. I mean, he had 6 turnovers. I mean, he put one off the put one shot
side
off
of the backboard.
Yeah, the side of the backboard. He just never really got in a rhythm, and he's good enough to where he doesn't get in a rhythm, and he ends up with 28 points on 8 of 15 shooting. I mean, that's how good Kevin Durant is. But right now, this is very clearly Devin Booker's team. Which, look, you can say, hey, if Kevin Durant's your second best player, you got a chance to really do something special. The problem is it does fall off pretty drastically after that. Ayton's been kind of just a guy, and CP3 is
and again,
Ayton was not great tonight, but he's been okay the first 2 games.
Well, and again, the minutes. Those 3 guys, 45 minutes for Devin Booker, 42 minutes for Kevin Durant, 41 minutes for Chris Paul. Chris Paul's averaging 39 minutes. The rest of their team stinks. This is the problem for the Suns. Can they do that for 2 months? Like, to me,
Torrey Craig has played 3 excellent games.
Right. They're getting great Torrey Craig games. That's probably not going to continue. They'll have other guys that might step up, but like, their depth is a huge problem. They have to rely on those guys to an immense degree. And to me, like, the Suns almost have to win the next 2 games. They have to get this series over with. Paul George is not playing. Who knows if Kawhi is going to be out there or not. They cannot afford this series to go to at least 6 games. They have to get it over in 5. They have to get their guys a break, because the Nuggets could very well sweep Minnesota. They're going to be sitting there rested and ready to go. Suns are going to have to go play at altitude. And yeah, I like the stylistic matchup for Phoenix, but this Suns team is going to run out of gas if these guys have to play 6 games or 7 games in this first round, and then turn around and go to altitude to play a rested Denver team, and then have to go on to play after. Like, it's just, they have so little depth, and they're relying so heavily on those guys shouldn't have had to play 42 and 45 and 41 minutes to beat the Clippers without Kawhi and without Paul George.
Well, they were up 13.
That's not good.
Well, first off, real quick, Chris Paul hurt his hand in game 2, had x-rays, were negative, got treatment, was able to play. We all know the history of Chris Paul's hand injuries. I don't know if one has to do with the other, but I'm just going to say that. And then I'm going to say that he was 5 of 18 shooting in this game, 1 of 8 from 3-point range, and 0 of 2 from the line. And right at the end of the game, when there was, they needed some, free throws to ice it, he got the ball inbound and then hot potato passed it to.
Well, that was right after he whiffed 2 free throws too.
That's right.
Well,
right,
maybe
hot
he can
potato
borrow.
Pass it to Durant.
You know, the Grizzlies are in LA. Maybe you can borrow Ja's mitten. What?
Oh, MacMahon, you're the best.
I'm just trying to help.
You know what I want? I want some reporting for Tim MacMahon for when he manages to mosey on over to Los Angeles about what's going on with this mitten. I want an in-depth story on the mitten. What's in it? Is there some kind of like stimulation in it? Is there padding? Like what's going on with the mitten? I want to know.
Well, the mitten keeps one's hand warm.
But it had the fingertips open.
Yeah, the fingers. I want it. Let's just lay it out for Sunday. You have to be able to
use your phone. You have to keep your
Sunday
hand
from Los Angeles. Let's get a live report from Los Angeles on the pod Sunday from Monday on the mitten and its impact. And
John's not using his phone nearly as much these days.
Anyway, so this game's a 13-point game early in the fourth quarter. It looks like they're going to put it away. The Suns were a little bit disorganized in the first half of this game, stumbling a little bit, but they sort of got control of the game in the third. And then Ty Lue, because he's Ty Lue, puts out basically an all 5 guard lineup.
Yes.
It was
how tall is Terrence Mann? Because he was the biggest
he's
guy
listed
out there.
He's listed at 6'5".
Russ is bigger than him, I think.
And I think Man is if Russ is 6'4", I think Man's 6'5".
Yeah.
But
so
still,
they
Norm
legit
Powell, in a playoff. Yes.
What's Norm Powell, like 6'4"?
I think he's 6'4".
They're all about the same size. Terrence Mann, Norm.
No, Norm
Russ.
is 6'3". Eric Gordon.
Right.
Who's 6'3".
Russ, they were running a Russ at center lineup. That's what they were doing.
Russ is 6'3".
Russ was the biggest and strongest guy on the court.
And then
but they did have when the Suns put Ayton into the game, they had Eric Gordon or Terrence Mann on him. So they were rotating between Eric Gordon at center and Terrence Mann at center.
Yeah, they had
and it worked. By the way, it worked.
6'3", 6'3", 6'5".
They got back into the game. They were trapping like crazy.
Bones had that three rattle in and out. Would have had him down too with like 18 seconds left.
It was
Don't know how it didn't go down.
And Bones and I wasn't in the building tonight, so I wasn't able to watch it as closely. Bones had 20 points tonight. His quickness and speed in the half court definitely makes a difference. He and Chris Paul, I was getting Jose Alvarado vibes because that happened like game 2-3 last year in the first round.
Yep.
They had already had, I think, something happen in the regular season. I might not have it 100% right, but like by game 2-3, it was clear that Alvarado was going to be an instigator. Well, Bones and CP, I've already been at each other's chests. And then right at the end of game 2, when there was a late timeout, the game was decided that the Suns were going to win. CP like approached Bones, and I don't know what was being said, but two of the referees immediately came in to break it up.
Wait, was Scott Foster with 3 little T's involved in that breakup? Or
I don't remember which. Scott Foster's on the court, but I don't remember which of the two officials were there. I wish I could accurately report that. So just keep a little eye on that because Bones outplayed him tonight. It was yes. What you're saying, Bontemps, is exactly true. Monty acknowledged the minutes thing before the game is a concern. And he tried to get more minutes for those guys in the first half. He played Damian Lee more minutes in this game than he had in 1 and 2 combined, trying to get them a break.
Look, they better get it. They better get it done in 5. They got a chance to get it done, especially if Kawhi can't play, which who knows if he's going to be able to play or not. Like they can't mess around. Like any extra game for them is just killing.
How is a knee sprain day to day?
How does a knee sprain? How do you sprain your knee and then just keep playing with nothing on it? I don't think he was wearing anything extra on it.
I don't know.
My 8 years in college did not result in a medical degree, hence my confusion.
Well, the media asked Lawrence Frank a number of questions trying to get drilled down on this, and he just wouldn't give it.
Was he ducking and dodging?
Well, I mean, I appreciate him going out there. Because Ty is so tired.
Again, saying the symptoms got worse after he played 39 minutes in game 2 from an injury he seemed to have suffered in game 1 is just it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Anyway, before we go, MacMahon, I just wanted to get your feel for Lakers Grizzlies, which has a gigantic one on Saturday night.
Yeah, honestly, man, it feels like a coin flip type of series. As you said, the Lakers had a golden opportunity and did not cash it in. But you know what? Let's not act like it's some kind of shock that the Grizzlies won without John Morant, okay? Because Tyus Jones, they call him the best backup point guard in the NBA.
You can remove they call him. He is the best backup point guard in the NBA.
And the Grizzlies are now 34-15 when Tyus Jones starts over the last 2 seasons, including playoffs. And they play a different style with him. You know, it's obviously, look, Ja's a superstar. He's going to have the ball in his hands vast majority. And I don't think Ja's a selfish player, but the ball moves in a much different way when Tyus Jones is playing point guard. Just because, look, Ja is capable of taking over games and tends to take over these stretches of every game, where Tyus is a pure run the team, move the ball, and then they are a better defensive team without Ja. That's just the reality of the situation. So, but still, that's their superstar. And man, Anthony Davis, like, you know what is a surprise? Him getting completely dominated by Xavier Tillman Sr., the Grizzlies' third string center, who's had to fill the starting role since Steven Adams and Brandon Clark went down. So I guess the two things I'm most curious to see are, how does Anthony Davis, well, I guess 3 things. 1, is Ja going to play? 2, how does Anthony Davis respond after just a real, honestly, an embarrassment of performance in game 2? And 3, like the Dylan the villain versus LeBron the bear. Like, let's see how that poke bear responds, right? I definitely, and Wendy, you obviously have been around LeBron more than anybody, and certainly much more than me. I would anticipate that LeBron will do a high road with a little passive aggressive jab for
well, here's my guess would be he'll take the high road, not only because it's what he's done, but because it's the smart move for the team.
Yes.
But when when he sees a moment to show him up, he'll show him up, is what my guess is. But I don't think you're going to see him come out and take 12 shots in the first quarter, because because Dylan Brooks said, I don't respect the guy unless he gives me 40.
Well, it's hard to outsmart LeBron. And if you suck LeBron in trying to play hero ball at the expense of the Lakers, that would be pretty clearly outsmarting him. And I don't anticipate that. Curious, though, also to see, and obviously we don't know who will be officiating this game, how tightly are they going to officiate Dylan Brooks defending LeBron? Brooks also did some lobbying in that regard. So
no question.
Dylan also said he's not the Heat and Cavs LeBron, which he is not. That's true.
He only averaged 29, 8, and 6 this year.
Well, I know, but I also think it's fair to say that he's not.
Well, and look, let's be honest. Through the first 2 games of this series, he's not been that impactful by LeBron standards. Like, he's had fine games, but he's sort of had, I mean, you talked about it, Brian, after game 1, he was basically invisible down the stretch of that game. It was Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves who carried him home. And in game 2, I mean, yes, he had 28 and 12 in that game, but it wasn't like he really put his imprint on it. He kind of accumulated those stats over the course of the game because he's a great player and got some offensive rebounds and did some stuff. But I thought part of the reason Xavier Tillman got off in that game was because the Lakers decided LeBron couldn't guard Jaren Jackson Jr. after the way he was working him in the post in game 1. And so they had AD out guarding Jaren in game 2. And Xavier Tillman kept getting these rolls to the rim where AD was late coming over. And he was getting layup after layup after layup out of it. So I'll be curious to see if they switch that back. To MacMahon's point, we came into the series saying Anthony Davis is the swing guy in the series. If he's the best player on the court, like he was in game 1, Lakers are probably going to win. He certainly wasn't in game 2. Memphis won that game. So a lot of it comes down to what, like you said, Tim, what performance we're going to get from AD on Saturday. And we talked about this coming into the series. If the Lakers want to win this series, I think they absolutely have to win game 3, because you have 5 games in 9 days, starting potentially through game 7, starting on Saturday, and starting with game 4, you got a game every other day, about 2,000 miles apart. And as this series drags on, you got the youngest team in the playoffs, maybe in the league, in Memphis, against a super old Laker team. That
poor
day
MacMahon having to fly back and forth.
Well, it's a brutal travel series to cover for sure. But if that, to me, that travel really advantages Memphis as the series goes along, because of the amount of mileage and toll that's going to take on the Lakers. And the Lakers already look kind of tired in game 2 when they've had 2 games in 9 days, 3 games in 12 days.
Let's also see how the Grizzlies handle the temptations of Los Angeles.
Well, that's true.
We'll see. Right. I'm going to go. You said the Lakers need to win game 3. They've got to win all their home games. They stole home court, but the Grizzlies had the best home court record in the NBA this season. I don't think that the Lakers are going to win twice in Memphis in this series. So the Lakers, they took home court from them. And if they handle their business at home, they win the series. If they don't, I don't think they do. All
right. Definitely worth watching. Thank you, MacMahon. Thank you to Jackson. Thank you to Bontemps as well.
I can't believe you got through this pod without Brian talking about this Cavs-Knicks thriller that we're going to see Friday night at the Garden.
Well, it's going to be great, but it's 2 a.m.
First Garden playoff game with full fans in a decade.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the Cavs are going to be successful Friday, but we'll see if they can come out Sunday. They can pull out a split. They'll have done well if they do that.
There's only going to be like 97 playoff games between the time this pod comes out and the next one. A lot of good games this weekend. Should be fun.
And thanks to Jackson for staying up all night putting this together. So, because we're all going to sleep. All right. Thanks, Listen Hoop Collective. We'll talk to you guys in a few days.
Adios, amigos.